In this video, I am ranking my 28 Lattafa fragrances. That includes their MAISON Alhambra fragrances. It was like fall of last year, winter of last year when I did this last, and I've added a bunch of new fragrances to my collection. So this is going to be a big one. I'm going to try to go through them quickly. I will tell you, this is not best to worst. This is just my least favorite to favorite. So I'm not saying that because something's lower on the list, it's not as good of a dupe or as good of a fragrance. I'm just saying whenever I consider what do I actually wear nowadays, what do I get the most enjoyment out of, they are ranked in that order. So we're going to get into this big old list. We're going to try to run through quickly. As we get started, remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. Also remember to give the video a big old like if you like it, and let me know in the comments what are your top 3 Lattafa or MAISON Alhambra fragrances. Let's dive in. All right, first up, remember, we're starting with my least favorite. This one is a clone of a Tom Ford fragrance, and I just haven't worn this one. It's a clone of Bitter Peach. This is Bright Peach by MAISON Alhambra. It's actually quite close to the Tom Ford. Differences being this one's a little more powdery and, believe it or not, a little more peachy. And I think I like the original a little better. The powderiness with the peachiness. Maybe it's not quite, you know, a little too feminine or something like that. But anyway, Bright Peach near the bottom of the list. Still actually quite a good fragrance. Next up, we've got a dupe of Tom Ford's Ombre Leather. This is Amber and Leather by MAISON Alhambra. And you may know this is one of the first kind of main inexpensive dupes of that fragrance that came out. And whenever it came out, it was kind of all we had. It was very impressive. I got it for $12 and it blew me away. But over the past 2 or 3 years, better things have come out, and I just don't wear this one much anymore, but it's still pretty good. If you can get it for under 20, it's a steal. Amber and Leather. Next up, this one probably should have been even the first one I mentioned because I really don't like this one. My wife likes it, but I don't wear it. This one is a clone of Parfums de Marly Cologne. This is MAISON Alhambra Kalos. And it's actually quite close to Cologne. It's that sort of citrus, saffron, a little bit waxy. There's something in there almost reminds you of iris or something, but it's also quite earthy in the heart. It's just sort of an odd blend, just like Cologne is. So again, MAISON Alhambra Kalos. All right, next up, this is another one that when it came out, this is one of the, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, a clone that came out when there wasn't a ton of good clones. This one is a clone of By the Fireplace. This is Lattafa's Amir Al Oud Intense. And it's sort of a Middle Eastern take on that fragrance. It's powerful. It's a little bit oudy. There's a little bit of a funk in there that you don't get with the original, but it's still quite good. The woods have gotten stronger, and this is a loud, long-lasting, powerful fragrance. Still a great pickup, but there are better options for By the Fireplace now. Amir Al Oud Intense. All right, next up, we'll go with this one right here. And we're very quickly getting into fragrances I do actually like. It's just I like the ones towards the end even more. This one's a good fragrance. I just haven't worn it that much. It's not even necessarily, it's maybe a clone of a K.Ali fragrance like Eden Apple or something like that. I've never smelled that one. But this is Badi Al Oud Sublime. And it's basically a tropical rose fragrance. I've always said it smells like fruit punch, and it's fruit punch with a waxy rose. There is an almost lipsticky quality to the rose in this fragrance. There's lots of sweet fruit punch in it, and again, it smells great. I sprayed it on my hand before I started and thought I should wear this week. Doesn't smell bad. I just haven't worn it that much. Sublime. A lot of guys say it's too feminine for them, and I could definitely understand that. All right, next up, we'll go with this one right here, which a lot of people are going to be like, what in the world? Because it's a good fragrance. It's just I have something better now, so I haven't worn this one. This is Qaed Al Fursan. And I did a video about this one back when it came out, and I was raving about it, and it's still a great fragrance. It's basically pineapple, saffron, and woods. And there's a little bit of a bitterness to the woods that I think is a synthetic oud, but I'm not quite sure. There's now one by Dumont, what's it called? Nitro Platinum, that's very similar to this one without the bitterness and with even more pineapple. I prefer that one. This one's still a great pickup though. You like pineapple, you like woods, check it out. It's super cheap, 15 bucks or so usually. Kate Alferson. Next, we'll go with this one right here. Now this is a good fragrance. I mean, I'll say that about all of these going forward, but I haven't worn it that much. There's another one I wear more. This is their take on Invictus Victory, and it's actually a great dupe. It is Victorioso Victory or Nero, depending on the region that your bottle comes from. And it smells a whole heck of a lot like Victory. I just happen to like Victory Elixir more, and I've worn that one more. But it's dark, resinous, incensey, vanilla, a little bit of spice and woods. It's a great fragrance. Again, Victorioso Victory. Again, super inexpensive. Next up, this is one that I only wear in certain situations. This one, if I'm going to the water, this is one of my top picks. It reminds me of the pool, the beach. This is Maison Alhambra's take on Neroli Portofino, and it is Porto Neroli. And again, it's a great fragrance. It smells a lot like the Tom Ford, but it's this very sort of aquatic, fresh, citrus, neroli fragrance. And I just haven't worn it a whole lot, but it's a great dupe of that fragrance. Again, Porto Neroli. All right, next up, we're going to go with a leather fragrance. This is Maison Alhambra's take on Godolphin by Parfums de Marly. I have so many leather fragrances. I have behind me a shelf of all tobacco fragrances. I have another shelf up top of all leather fragrances. I don't wear it that much, but it is quite close to Godolphin. It's a beautiful leather fragrance. This is Galatea by Maison Alhambra. And it is a little more aromatic than something like ombre leather or even Tuscan leather by Tom Ford. It's an awesome like leather jacket, putting your nose right in raw leather fragrance. It's really good. Galatea by Maison Alhambra. All right, next up, this is Maison Alhambra's take on YSL Y the Parfum. And this is Yeah Parfum. And it is very close to the YSL. The difference being this one does not have quite the sparkly, effervescent orange citrus opening that the YSL has. This one has a touch of it, but to me, the Parfum of Y has quite a bit of that, and I think it's the best part of the fragrance. This one is still super close in the mid and the dry down. It smells just like the Y fragrances. Yeah Parfum. All right, next we'll go with this one that again is a great fragrance. It's just not a DNA that I've turned out to love a whole lot. I've worn it 4 or 5 times since I had it. It's got excellent performance, and I've heard it's like almost 1-to-1 of the original. This is Jean Lo Immortel, and this is their take on Louis Vuitton L'Immensity. And it is a citrus aromatic fragrance just to the max. It's got a good bit of greenness in the heart. It's got powerful, bright citrus in the opening. I actually really like it, but I have a whole shelf of fragrances in this genre, and I end up reaching for others more. But it's still, this is a happy fragrance. It's a put you in a good mood fragrance, and it's a $40 alternative to like a $350 fragrance. Again, Immortal. All right, let's go with one of these next. Man, it's getting tough because these are all starting to be really good. I'll go with this one right here. This is Lattafa's take on Acqua di Gio Profumo. Awesome, incensey take on that aquatic aromatic fragrance. This is Lattafa Sucrate, and it is very good. Very versatile. Wear it anytime, anywhere, any situation, all year long. Excellent, super, accurate to the original. Great performance. I got nothing bad to say about this one. Sucrate by Lattafa. All right, right next to that one, we'll throw in this one right here. This is their take on Acqua di Gio Profondo. So sort of the sweeter, bluer take on the Acqua di Gio line, and this is Lattafa's Liam Blue. And this is gorgeous. It's sort of a minty aromatic blue fragrance. It's got a little bit of a mineral note, like a wet rocks note. It's another anytime, anywhere fragrance. Pretty good performance on this one too, about 7 hours on me. No complaints there. Lattafa Liam Blue. All right, next we'll go with this one. This was one of the first oud fragrances that I bought. It wasn't the first, but it was one of the first exclusively oud fragrances that I bought. This is Lattafa's take on Oud for Greatness. This is Badi Al Oud, Oud for Glory. And this is a gorgeous spiced woods synthetic oud fragrance. It's the ultimate winter fragrance. It lasts forever. It's loud. It's strong. My sons will wear it and they'll fill the house with this stuff. It's really good, and it actually is very close to the original. I've smelled the original. I've sprayed it on skin. I don't own it, but I am familiar with the original, and in my memory, which, you know, it's just memory, it's a really good dupe. Badi Al Oud for Glory. All right, we're starting to get into the, you know, the bottom or the top half. You know, they're getting better and better, and it's going to be hard to kind of sort through favorites as we go here. This next one, this is Maison Alhambra's take on Memo African Leather, a gorgeous, spicy leather fragrance. This is Afro Leather, and it's basically a animalic leather fragrance with the most gorgeous cardamom imaginable. This one is not as complex, textured, multi-layered as the Memo or Alexandria's dupe of the same fragrance. Their take on the fragrance is almost indistinguishable from the original, but I still love this fragrance. In the air, it's quite close. And so again, Afro Leather, really great pickup right there. Okay. Next up, we're going to go with one that I think is an incredible fragrance, one of their best in the past year. This is a powerful, powerful dupe of Orto Parisi Megamare. I've never smelled the original, but I can tell you this is a powerhouse 12-hour fragrance. It is a very strong, musky, salty, aquatic fragrance with some aromatics, a little bit of citrus going on. It's strong. It's a little metallic. The lid always squeaks when you take it off. It's great. It's something, 2 sprays of this when you're going out in the heat, it'll last you all day. But it's the kind of DNA that I couldn't wear every day. I think I would get tired of it pretty quick. I think it would give me a headache if I wore it too much. But it's awesome. It's one of those, like, man, use sparingly, use in the right situation, and it's going to blow your head off. Again, this is Lattafa Atlas. I don't know if I ever told you the name. Lattafa Atlas. All right, next we'll go with this one right here. This has been called a dupe of La Nuit de l'Homme Bleu Electrique. There are some differences though. I don't even know if this fragrance has leather in it, but to me, it would be like if La Nuit de l'Homme had some leather in it, some extra freshness and some leather. This is Lattafa Ijazi Intensive Silver. And this is really good stuff. One of my sons has used half of this bottle. I can't see through it, but I'm guessing. He wears it all the time. And I like this way, way, way better on him than I do on me. The sillage, the scent trail, it is intoxicating. It literally smells like a fresher La Nuit de l'Homme with a prominent leather. And I don't even think this has leather in it, but it's really good stuff. Super cheap, Ijazi Intensive Silver. All right, where should we go next? Let's go with this one next. This one's a new pickup, and it's really good. This is their take on Valentino Uomo Born in Roma Coral Fantasy. What a name on that fragrance. This is Lattafa Jasor. Very inexpensive. I think I paid about $25 for this one, and it is a fruity tobacco fragrance with a very sort of dry, woody tobacco, or it might even be some of the aromatics like the geranium in this fragrance. Somehow mixing with that tobacco, there's a woodiness in this fragrance that I wasn't expecting. It smells great. Apple, maybe even pineapple in the opening, with some sort of fresh, spicy aromatics and not an overly sweet. It's on tobacco. It's more of like a dry tobacco. Really interesting, really good stuff. Their take on Coral Fantasy. And again, all these are really great prices. Lattafa does a great job with amazing fragrances at very low prices. That's really their specialty. Where should we go next? I'm trying to rank these. I think we'll do this one next. This is a dupe of one of my favorite fragrances of all time, YSL EDP. This is Lattafa Fakhar Black. And this one is, it's got major similarities to YEDP, but also some differences. There's not the same sort of like chewy ambergris. There's something in YEDP that gives this texture that is unparalleled. It's one of the most impressive fragrances that I own to me. And this one doesn't quite nail the aromatics, but it's got that gorgeous sweet apple, the ginger, the geranium, juniper berry. It's got all of that. But it is a different take on that fragrance. I will often, and I've done this for a couple of years now, I'll wear half Fakhar on my body and half YEDP on my body. Really good stuff. Fakhar Black by Lattafa. All right, next we'll go with, man, they're getting so good that it's going to be really hard to choose as we go forward. So I don't confuse myself, I'm going to go here next. This is Lattafa's take on Sauvage Elixir. It's gorgeous, it's cheap, it's awesome. It's like 20 bucks for something very close to Elixir. This is, of course, Lattafa Assad, and it's a little bit more wearable than Elixir. It's not quite as nuclear powerful, but it's still like an 8+ hour fragrance. It's got a good dose of vanilla in the opening. There's not as much of a deep spiciness, not as much of the licorice, but overall, it's still like 85–90% similar. A great take on Dior Sauvage Elixir for very inexpensive. All right, next let's go with this one right here. This is Lattafa, well, Maison Alhambra's take on Herod, Parfums de Marly Herod. When I first got this fragrance, it sucked, honestly. It was not until a couple weeks later, after it macerated, that I thought, oh wow, now it smells like Herod. But it literally took a couple weeks to be anything more than sort of a mildly spicy vanilla fragrance. This is Hercules, another super cheap, super impressive tobacco fragrance. It's got some similarities to like Tom Ford Tobacco Vanille. You know, it's that sort of dark, rich vanilla tobacco fragrance with spiciness. Nowhere near as spicy as Tobacco Vanille, but in a similar kind of style. I love this stuff. Hercules, they did a fantastic job for super cheap. All right, next we'll go with this one. This is their take on Parfums de Marly Sedley, a gorgeous blue fragrance. This is Lattafa Mahir Legacy, and it's basically sweet citrus and mint in the opening, and it's a captivating opening. It's an addictive opening, but then you go on down into the dry down. You've got some woods and you've got some spiciness, a good bit of warm spiciness. This is appropriate for winter as it is for summer. Every day, every situation. Awesome stuff, a little more spicy than Sedley is. This is again Mahir Legacy. All right, next we're going to go with, man, it's getting tough. All right, let's go with this one next. Hope I don't miss out on some of these. This is Lattafa's take on Initio Paragon, and I have not smelled the original, but this is gorgeous stuff right here. This is Lattafa Al Neshama, and it's basically plum and plum blossom, this sweet, powerful fruitiness. It reminds me of those Freezy Pops that you probably ate as a kid. This sort of tart, almost acidic, kind of fruity, very sweet, gorgeous goodness. And then there is a woodiness and a touch of oudiness in the base. It reminds you a little bit of like Oud for Greatness vibes in the base as it begins to dry down. I love it. It's addictive, awesome fragrance, Al Neshama. I know that they have other dupes of that fragrance, but I'm totally happy with this one. Next, we shall go here, I believe. This one could be higher. All the rest, I think we're in the top 5 now. Any one of them could be number 1. But this one is Lattafa's take on Nishane Ani or Annie. This is Lattafa's Nashit. Almost forgot the name of it, but it's so gorgeous. It is lemon and vanilla in the opening, which is going to give you like a lemon meringue pie, and then it dries down into vanilla and ginger, a spicy vanilla. This fragrance impressed the crap out of me because I had just worn Annie for the first time like a week before I got this, and I was mesmerized by the way it developed from sort of gourmand lemon into vanilla, then spicy vanilla, and I got this, and lo and behold, it does the same thing. It didn't perform well for me for the first month or so, but now, without question, this is an 8+ hour fragrance. I'm positive that my bottle has great performance. I know some people don't get that, but give it some time to sit. As with most of these, they improve over time. This one's awesome, Lattafa Nashit. All right, I don't want to miss any here. Where do we go next? Let's go with, I think we'll go with this one next. This is Lattafa's take on 1 Million Parfum, a summer take on 1 Million. This is Fakar Gold or Fakar Extrait. And this one is basically a solar note, which is kind of that sun-tanning oil kind of a vibe, but it's also got some tuberose, and that tuberose will remind you of rose, and it's got some sweetness that's not quite vanilla, but it's that sort of a sweetness. This fragrance reminds me a lot, actually, of 1 Million Elixir, smashed into a summer fragrance. So instead of vanilla rose, you've got this tuberose with some sweetness and some solar notes. There's also a touch of spice in this one that's not in 1 Million Parfum. It's amazing. I don't think that this is too feminine at all for a guy to wear. It's a male fragrance. It was marketed to men, but some guys say it's too feminine for them. Fakar Gold or Fakar Extrait. All right, we're rounding the bend. I think we're in the top 3 here. And I think what I'm going to do for number 3 is this one right here. It's Maison Alhambra's take on Carlisle, Parfums de Marly Carlisle. Gorgeous patchouli fragrance. This is Cassius, and this fragrance impresses the crap out of me. I've got a couple of clones now of Carlisle, and I've smelled the original, I've worn the original, but this one, it might not be as close as like Barouge Perlador, but I think I like it better because it's a little sweeter. It's got a little more zing off of the top, whereas Perlador is richer and a little drier and maybe even a little closer to the original. But this one's gorgeous. Basically patchouli, vanilla, spices, a little bit of woodiness. It is a mysterious, dark, sexy, gorgeous fragrance. Very addictive fragrance as well. You know, fall, winter time is going to be your best time to wear this one. I think next we're going to have to go here. It kind of pains me to do this, but 1 and 2 could be swapped any day of the week. But this is Maison Alhambra's take on Tobacco Vanille. I've got a couple different clones of Tobacco Vanille. It's my favorite Tom Ford fragrance. This is Tobacco Touch. And they did an awesome job. They did a great job of lining up the spices in order where they go, of capturing that rich, dark tobacco, vanilla, almost edible, like you think like Middle Eastern dessert, sweet, spicy, gorgeous stuff. This is Thanksgiving and Christmas in a bottle. I love this stuff, Tobacco Touch. For a long time, it was my number 1 Lattafa. But I think today, this one right here is probably my number 1 Lattafa. I don't even think it's a clone. I think it's an original creation. It is Badi Al Oud, Honor and Glory. And this stuff is so absolutely incredible. It is a burst of gorgeous pineapple in the opening. And then you go down into a very rich, powerful vanilla, and then you go down into a touch of spiciness and some woods. Again, something that will remind you a little bit of Oud for Greatness, a little bit of woodiness, even a little synthetic oudiness in the base. Gorgeous. To me, not at all feminine. Some guys say it's too feminine for them. It's just a sweet fragrance, like several that I've commented on. They're not too feminine for me. You know, if you're confident and you like the way it smells, then wear this. It's definitely not a female fragrance. It's unisex. This stuff is amazing. Pineapple, vanilla, woods, even a touch of oudiness. Love that stuff. So that has been 28 fragrances by Lattafa and their sub-brand Maison Alhambra. Let me know your top 3 down below, or even your favorite one will be fine. Remember to give the like button a click and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. I'm Justin. This is Sillage Scents.